G'day, it's Geoff Lewis here from Series. And in this video what we're going to be looking at is none other than the Roamerdrive Overdrive unit that you can actually fit to your Land Rover Defender Series 1, Series 2, 2A and Series 3 Land Rover. By fitting this to your vehicle, you're able to actually increase the gear ratio in your transmission or via your transfer case, therefore allowing you to travel at greater speeds and use less fuel. It's certainly one way to roam the outback. So anyway, stay tuned as we look at what you can actually get in a Roamerdrive kit and how you actually go about fitting it to your vehicle. So first things first, this is actually how the Roamerdrive comes packed. It's in a nice wooden box, and you have your gasket for the rear flange that actually comes off the back of your transfer case. You actually have the shifter or gear lever that's required to engage and disengage. This little funny bit of pipe here actually goes into where you usually fill up your transfer case, and you've then got a dipstick that's in here that you can pull in and out. What else do we have? I'm not entirely sure what this is. Oh, that's good. You actually have a socket. You've got to take the nut off the back of the main shaft in your gearbox. And now we're getting into the real interesting stuff. It looks like we've got a bracket here. More gaskets that's to actually go on top of the transfer case itself. Then we've got the overdrive unit itself, and now I know it goes against almost the instinct of any male out there to actually follow the instructions, but for the benefit of this video, these are very expensive units. They're not cheap at all. So I think for this I am going to actually consult the instruction manual for it, and I do really like how Roamerdrive goes about it, because they've got this lovely little disclaimer on the front here saying, before you do it your way, please try our way. I think that's fantastic. Had a good chuckle when I first read that. And the other thing you also get is a lovely book. Funniest 4x4 by far. And it's a really nicely illustrated little book with plenty of little landy jokes in it too, so I've had a good little giggle at that also. But anyway, this video, I'm not going to do it as a step-by-step of how to actually fit your Roamerdrive into a Series Land Rover or a Defender. You guys and girls watching this, you're smart enough to work it out yourselves, but what I'm going to actually do is stop, show you a few little tricks that I've had to come across, or a few little issues in actually fitting the unit itself. They say in the manual it should take about 3 hours in a basic workshop. That might be true. I'm a bit skeptical of that because things don't always go according to plan. But anyway, we'll see how we go. So I've removed the plate that sits here for the middle seat, and just move that out of the way. I've got a cover that sits here, square cover, and that's got a tiny hole in it, acts as a bit of a breather. On here we've got another plate or coupling. Basically, get it to work. Sits in there like so. Now if you're going to fit a PTO unit, you just simply take this off. Your PTO would sit there. The Roamerdrive is going to obviously sit in the same position. So if you have an overdrive unit, it means you cannot have a PTO unit. So you have to decide what you're going to have, and this is one of the reasons why I've gone for the capstan winch. It means I can have a mechanically driven winch at the front, but I can also have a PTO unit. PTO unit, overdrive unit. Overdrive unit was what I was meant to say. So, gives you the best of both worlds. Now, it's not as simple as getting the unit and then just bolting it straight on. We've got to do a little bit more work. So it's a bit hard to see, but I'll do the best I can. In there you can see there's a shaft. That shaft houses, gotta be careful with this because I don't want to drop the washers, houses a cog. Now there's I think it's the main shaft that comes from the gearbox. There's a shaft on, the main shaft that comes from the gearbox. This cog is obviously got a spline and it clips onto it. It's held on by a retaining nut at the back here. This nut, this cog transfers the power from the main shaft in the gearbox to an idler cog which sits here, and then to another cog which then transfers the power to the rear and the front of the vehicle. And in essence, that's basically a transfer case 101. So what we have to do is we have to take that nut off. We have to take this cog out. The nut, is a bit difficult, as you can see. It's not your standard nut. You've got to knock the locking tabs up flat, and then you can take this nut off. Now I've used a screwdriver on this, flat-bladed screwdriver, and just given it a tap to actually slacken it off because I don't have a specialised tool for it. Just put that back up there to improve the light. Okay, so the next step that I've got to do is we've got to get some drive. We've got to make sure this overdrive works. This is what's going to provide it. As you can see in there, let's get up to the light, there's actually a thread and a nut in there. We've got a bearing here, a roller bearing, and we've got Allen keys in here, Allen key bolts. We've got to make sure that they're flush. Obviously if they're not flush, when the overdrive slides over this, or slides into it, it slides over the top, and then it's also got an inner cog or dog clutch which engages on the inside. If these aren't flush, then obviously it's going to hit that and cause damage to occur to it. So you've got to make sure that they're nice and flush or recessed in. What we now need to do is we need to fit this on. So just put it on there, line it up with the spline, and then we can push it in. There's a nut in here, and we're going to tighten that up to 110. It's 110, I'll just consult the instructions. 110 foot-pounds, or 135 newton meters. So you get a specialised socket which will fit on here, and then we'll tighten it up, and then after that I will consult the instructions again, but we should be able to put the overdrive unit on the back. Okay, so all the studs are out. How is the gasket held in place? That's using a bit of bearing grease. That's the grease I usually use for paper gaskets. You can use oil, but if you use oil and you put the gasket on, it tends to start slipping down the actual housing. So grease is a bit more viscous, obviously, a bit stickier, so it sticks it in place nicely. One thing on tightening up studs that I didn't mention before, be wary that if you're tightening them up into aluminium, don't get too carried away with it. Aluminium is soft, so therefore it will end up spinning, and then you're in a world of hurt. So a bit dark, but there's the overdrive unit there, and I've now got to get underneath and get that thing there to go into that thing there. So it's going to take a bit of jostling, so I'll put the camera down and hopefully it won't take too long. Rightio, so I've just fitted the Roamerdrive unit. Top tip is obviously make sure you leave this plate off, so then you can actually help to mesh the gears, or the gear on the overdrive, to the gear on the intermediate shaft, which is a shaft that runs through here. You've got a gear here, and obviously one in the transfer case too. Well, multiple gears, but basically that's an easy way of understanding how a transfer case works. Once you've done that and you've engaged it and you've made sure that everything works okay, one more top tip I would suggest is make sure that you can actually select your gears, because the actual cog in here needs to rotate just a little bit either way to allow the gears to engage and disengage. Well, that's what I've found anyway. So the next thing, got to fit the linkage and torque these up to, I think, 52 Newton meters, and then this is good to go. So as you can see, we've got the gear lever in place. That obviously just attaches with a simple L-shaped bracket. Put the nuts on here, so the plate is now secure. I've torqued these up to the correct specifications as stipulated in the instructions, and obviously I've checked on the dipstick here that the oil is up to the right level, and also I've adjusted the linkage too. So all is done. So there we are. The next thing that I need to do is take this vehicle for a drive and see if the Roamerdrive is actually any good. Does it live up to its reputation? Does it live up to what other people have told me about the Roamerdrive unit? Does it transform your vehicle? I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see. I've got a trip coming up over the Christmas New Year break. It's not an adventure series, sadly. It's a bit of R&R for myself to recharge the batteries, all ready for 2020. So it should be a good trip. Couple thousand Ks that should certainly run in the Roamerdrive, and hopefully I should be able to give you guys and girls a in-depth review on how it performs, not just on-road but off-road too. Before I wrap up this video, obviously I made reference at the start of this video to roaming the outback, and this is a fellow, I guess, content creator, you could say, called Brett, and he has a fantastic channel, if you haven't heard of, called Roaming the Outback, and I'll put a link to his channel in the content section down below. So if you like your Land Rovers, you like travelling, you like getting out into the back and beyond and going to those places that not everyone necessarily goes to, then Brett's well worth checking out. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're new to this channel and you want to see more videos like this, click on the subscribe button down below. And if you've been watching our videos for a while and you want to support the generation of content here at Seriously Series, please click on the Patreon icon at the top corner of your screen. And I hope to catch you in our next video.